Tonight on CFTK-TV, a new housing complex will be dedicated towards Terrace's seniors and youth. Team Canada prepares for its bronze medal match Saturday, and summer over-tourism taking place in the Northern Hemisphere.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Damian Smith. Thank you for joining us. As our first story today, ground was broken yesterday on a new space dedicated to senior housing and youth care. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews reports.
This hole in the ground that we see may not look like much right now, but it's the culmination of years of relentless effort, unwavering commitment, and an unyielding belief in the betterment of our community by our community.
On this site will one day sit EB Place, providing a multi-use center for youth and seniors. The 7,500 square foot ground floor space will be dedicated to the Foundry's operations, which provide accessible mental health and wellness services to youth. Above the Foundry will be 4 floors, creating 43 units of seniors housing. Rent will be determined based on unit size and household income.
Our community has needed this kind of holistic, integrated healthcare model for a very long while, and I'm so happy that our youth are going to be able to engage in a self-determined journey on their health and wellness. This is their opportunity to take control and imbue the journey of life as full and as enriched as possible. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for recognizing and then saying, no, we want this.
The project has been a community initiative, a collaboration between the Foundry, Terrace Community District and Social Services, BC Housing, the City of Terrace, and the province.
In late 2022, Mr. McFedras came to then Mayor Carol Leclerc with concerns the project was struggling to get off the ground due to rising costs and interest rates. Then Mayor and Council made Foundry a strategic lobbying priority. We sat down with the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction at UBCM to express the needs and the concerns of losing this project. Last year, knowing the Premier was in Prince Rupert, I took the drive to Rupert and tried to speak to Premier Eby about the concerns of losing this project. When I told the Premier the concern, his response was, "We can't let that happen." A few weeks later, TDCSS was informed they had the extra $1 million they needed to get this project done.
The project is expected to be completed in 2026.
It truly is a testament to the staff's dedication, perseverance in supporting Foundry's mission that we're finally going to have a dedicated space, a brand new Foundry Center, where we can continue our mission of supporting youth and living a good life.
For CFTK TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Initial attack crews are still responding to the Little Oliver Creek wildfire, which was reported this Monday. Once reported at 15 hectares, the fire has expanded to 130, which was confirmed this morning. The fire is 45 kilometers northeast of Terrace and is right on Highway 16, so please use extra caution when driving in the vicinity. With that, a province-wide campfire prohibition will take effect at noon this Friday, with the exception of the Haida Gwaii Forest District. These prohibitions are being made to help prevent any human-caused wildfires and to protect the public safety. The process for deciding whether to implement a campfire prohibition is complex and may differ from one part of the province to another depending on local conditions. With the NATO summit underway this week, Prime Minister Trudeau has been called out for Ottawa's contributions towards the alliance. Here's CTV's Judy Trin in Washington.
NATO, now 32 nations strong, led by the U.S. President Joe Biden is older than the military alliance, but Biden is eager to demonstrate he can still unify allies.
Make no mistake, Ukraine can and will stop Putin.
To help Ukraine defeat Russia, NATO will create a new mission in Germany run by a 3-star general focused on delivering long-term military aid to Ukraine. It falls short of Volodymyr Zelensky's hope to start negotiating for membership. At a visit to a monument memorializing the deaths of Ukrainians starved to death by Soviet-era policies, the diaspora urged Canada to do more.
Russia is on a war footing, and security and defense is a top priority for most global leaders. And quite frankly, Canada is being left behind by not at least keeping up with our allies in terms of how much we're spending on defense.
Since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Ottawa has given Kyiv $4 billion in weapons, ammunition, and training, and $12 billion in loan guarantees. But at the summit, allies are taking aim. Ottawa only spends 1.37% of its national revenue on defense, far below its NATO obligations.
They're not going to do their 2%. Why? Well, talk about riding on America's coattails. They have the safety and security of being on our border and not having to worry about that. I think that's shameful.
Our credibility as an ally is at stake. This will be a very awkward meeting for Prime Minister Trudeau if Canada doesn't plan on making additional spending commitments.
Defense Minister Bill Blair says he'll present allies a plan to meet NATO targets within the next few days. Canada's defense budget is at $30 billion this year. Getting to the target will take billions more.
Coming up next, animal fatalities continue to be a conversation at the Calgary Stampede. Welcome back. A 2-0 loss to Argentina was expected for Team Canada in the Copa America, but considering it was the semifinal, fans are still holding their head up high going forward. Here's Ben Nesbitt from CTV Vancouver.
Fired up fans filled Vancouver's Fable Diner and Bar, hoping to see their team shock the soccer world. The Canadians played a strong first 20 minutes, but eventually the Argentinians went on the attack.
Rodrigo to pull through the middle. Alvarez brings it down. He's in round the back. It's Alvarez. It's 1-0 for Argentina.
The world's top team burning Canada's backline to get on the board. They would take their lead into halftime, but the Canadian fans stayed positive.
It's tense, but it's great. We're in this game. Need one goal, we're going to score a goal. It'll be great.
That optimism put to the test just 5 minutes into the second half.
DePaul has some space here. It's Rodrigo DePaul, and then cleared away by Kone. Enzo Fernandez!
Lionel Messi with a hockey-like deflection, making it 2-0. Canada would fight right until the end, but came up short. However, for longtime supporters and the players, this semi-final run, a refreshing sight, and another major stepping stone on the road to the 2026 World Cup.
Everybody was like, they were never going to get out of the group, and never say never, right? So I've been following for a very long time, and I appreciate that we are now coming together and supporting the men's as much as we support the women's.
We are getting so much closer, and again, our rise has been rapid over these past couple years, that you were even mad that we're getting knocked out in a Copa America semifinal by Argentina.
Canada will play one more match for third place against the loser of the second semifinal on Saturday. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
While thousands of people go to the Calgary Stampede for its unique experience, animal fatalities are something customers may not be expecting. There have been over 100 deaths at the Stampede since 1986, and animal activist groups would like a ban. Here's CTV's Tyson Fedor.
A routine ride for Idaho cowboy Stetson Jorgensen turned fatal for a young cow at the Calgary Stampede Monday. The calf he was steer wrestling had to be euthanized. Jorgensen is seen leaping from his horse to corral the calf, and in the process appears to injure the animal's neck, leaving it almost motionless.
It really seems that animal fatalities at the Stampede have become a near annual occurrence.
It gained attention from spectators, and the Calgary Stampede says in a statement that it does everything possible to evolve the programs and minimize risk, calling this a highly unusual and unfortunate incident.
You have to continue your bloody rodeo at the Stampede, which I think that we are definitely a more civilized country than this, that we just start looking at rodeo as being as cruel as it really is.
The steer death is the latest, with 2 chuck wagon horses being put down on Friday and Saturday due to injuries sustained by wagon interference on Denny Ringette's rig.
These horses are part of our family. We spend more time with these animals than we do with our families. So You know, it's a devastating loss to our barn.
And an outrider horse suffering serious injuries from Chance Thompson's crew. But some at the ground say the rodeo and chuck wagon races are what the greatest outdoor show on earth is all about.
I think it's all about the Stampede, the whole concept, right? The animals at least have a chance here.
Bad things happen to good horses. They're so well looked after. It's a shame that it happens, but the other 99.9%.
The Vancouver Humane Society says there have now been 108 animal deaths at the Stampede since 1986. Local animal activist groups want a ban on animal events and more of a focus on entertainment and the arts.
It really comes down to being for the sake of public entertainment.
Why don't we look at the beauty of these animals instead of looking at, let's watch some, get abused.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Turning to tonight's forecast, the coast will see cloudy conditions with a 40% chance of showers, along with a low of 12 degrees, which will be at night. The Terrace and Kitimat area may have a few showers tonight with the chance of thunderstorms, but then will shift to cloudy conditions right after. With a low of 12, there will be a 30% chance of showers overnight with 30-kilometer winds gusting to 50 at the max. In the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, there will be some clouds with a 30% chance of showers early this evening. The southwest wind will be at 20 kilometers per hour, gusting to 40, and will die down this evening. The low will be 5 degrees, and we'll head into this week's forecast. The coast will see sun and clouds for 3 days until Sunday rolls around, and that's when the rain periods and showers will arrive. A low of 11 degrees will be tomorrow night with cloudy periods. The Terrace Kitimat area will be partially cloudy with a high of 25 degrees Friday. There will be a 30% chance of showers tomorrow. The Sunday to Tuesday portion will have a 60% chance of showers, with all days having a temperature of 22 degrees. The Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will have 4 days of clear sun as we see a steady increase in temperature until Sunday at 29 degrees. Some clouds will arrive once the week starts, but no rainy conditions. A low of 10 degrees will be tomorrow and Friday night. Now let's take a look at our Northwest Roadside Report. Highway 16 has bridge maintenance between Omineka Ave and Vancouver Street for over a kilometer until tomorrow at 5 p.m. There is construction work and a lane closure between Lucerne Campground Access Road and Boundary Road for 8 kilometers. Highway 37 has frost heaves between Dease River Bridge and the end of Highway 37 for 165 kilometers. There's maintenance including barrier cleaning between Bell 1 Bridge and Deltaic Bridge for 32 kilometers. And there's also bridge maintenance between Nalabilla Boulevard and Terrace for 58 kilometers. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the viewpoint of the province's highway camps. Still to come, over-tourism is still stressing local citizens around the world. Since being deemed a threatened species in 2010, the number of grizzly bears has nearly doubled in Alberta. However, there seems to be more human encounters as of late, which has some people worried. Here's CTV's Terry Fikowski in Calgary.
A ban on hunting grizzly bears for nearly 2 decades has helped the number of animals grow from around 850 in 2006 to now more than 1,500 province-wide. But as their population increases and pushes into new territories, so do their encounters with people.
The negative interactions between people and grizzlies has been getting increasingly worse and increasingly more catastrophic.
The province says there have been 104 grizzly and black bear attacks between 2000 and 2021. That's why it has introduced a program that will allow selected hunters to track and kill problematic grizzlies. It comes with rules and regulations, including the go-ahead from wildlife officers, timeframes and location limits, and bears with cubs are off limits.
The same way we've dealt with grizzly bears for the last 20 years is how we'll continue doing it. It's merely a matter of who is taking care of that. And this will give an opportunity to free up Fish and Wildlife officers.
Farmers have been calling for limited hunting tags to help protect livestock. In May, 17 sheep and 5 lamb were slaughtered by a grizzly bear and her 2 cubs, devastating a southern Alberta Hutterite colony.
Thriving and they're protected, so.
The grizzly bear was listed as a threatened species in 2010, and conservationists fear the hunting program is a slippery slope in losing protections.
And they do have a really slow reproductive rate, so that could very seriously impact their population, and it could undo all of the recovery of the last couple of decades.
Jay Honeyman retired as the province's only human-wildlife conflict specialist in 2022, a position that remains unfilled. He'd rather see more measures to prevent these conflicts from happening in the first place.
Such as putting up electric fence around bee yards, bear-proof garbage bin, community bylaws, the kind of things that keep bears out of trouble.
To apply, you must be an adult resident of Alberta with a recreational hunting license. The province says it will be accepting online applications later this month.
As summer arrives here in the Northern Hemisphere, local citizens are overwhelmed by the amount of tourists that are visiting in large clusters. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez with an update in Alaska and beyond.
With its breathtaking views and captivating landscape, Alaska has turned into a tourist hotspot for fans of cruises.
Here's everything I did on a 7-night cruise to Alaska. Our third stop was Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska.
Record crowds sailing to spots like Juneau to see attractions like the Mendenhall Glacier, but some Juneau residents have had enough.
I personally came to the realization that Alaska was being sold as a friendly place and that my friendliness was a commodity for the cruise lines.
The city considering banning large cruise ships on Saturdays to help curb the crush of post-pandemic crowds.
The idea is just one day every week to just take a pause, to have our community back.
A record 1.6 million cruise passengers visiting Juneau in 2023. Sarah went on a cruise this May that stopped in Juneau.
It was beautiful to go and see a glacier. It was my first one.
Juneau, just one of the places facing challenges of over-tourism.
I'm not against limiting the amount of cruise ships. I think it would make it nicer for the locals who live there year-round.
We have been setting new travel records every month so far in 2024, and there's no reason to think that's going to stop.
Travelers posting to social media about growing crowds. In the U.S., Mount Rainier now among the national parks implementing timed entry reservations. In Europe, cities like Venice and Barcelona adding fees for tourists. This weekend in Barcelona, locals using water guns to spray visitors. Thousands in the streets taking a stand against tourism, which they say results in a higher cost of living for residents. Experts believe as more destinations see a surge in visitors, local officials may implement restrictions to manage crowds.
I'm all in favor of steps taken to try to make sure you're managing that properly and respecting the local environment and everything.
Now we'll take a look at the stock market. The Canadian dollar is up 0.6 cents. The price of gold is up $9.30. Oil is up 95 cents. Natural gas is down 2 cents. Aluminum is down $35. In Toronto, the TSX is up 277.38. The Venture Index is up 6.62. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 298.44 and NASDAQ is up 193.88. And coming up next, ADHD continues to be a target towards younger women. Well, first it was cigarettes, then it was e-cigarettes. Now nicotine pouches are pretty much everywhere, and some are adamant that the selling of this type of tobacco should be restricted to the public. Here's CTV's Garrett Berry, all the way over in St. John's.
No longer the stuff of old-school films or baseball diamonds, chewable nicotine sales are raging in the United States, almost doubling year over year. Last October, they moved north, a new product called Zonic, made by Imperial Tobacco. But where some see a tool to help people quit smoking, others see a Trojan horse, flavored, colorful nicotine that can be addictive for new users. Some provinces have already stepped in to restrict where these cans can be seen and sold. Health Canada is studying the issue too, with new powers regulating advertising, sales, and packaging of certain products. Anti-smoking advocates want the pouches out of corner stores.
Pharmacies would be a great location.
and the adult can certainly access them there if they need them. While there, they can probably get some advice and some guidance.
Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, you can still walk into a corner store and buy one of these nicotine pouches. And it's also here that a business lobby group is trying to mount their campaign against looming federal regulations.
And if I'm a smoker and I want to quit smoking, and it is easier for me to buy a product online than it is to go to a pharmacist to buy that product, I'm probably going to make an illicit sale.
These retailers say pushing products out of corner stores won't make them go away. Polls show that chewing products are more popular among young adults, 18 to 34, than the rest of the population. But unlike smoking and even vaping, they don't create a smell for others.
If I'm chewing tobacco or if I have a nicotine chewing gum, it's not going to bother people in the same way as it would if I light up a cigar in the middle of a room.
So it's not yet clear how badly Canadians might want them regulated or moved out of sight. Garrett Perry, CTV News, St. John's.
ADHD, also known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, has had a steady rise in cases recently. This conversation has younger women double-checking to see if they may be diagnosed as well. Here's ABC's Diane Macedo.
I always felt a sense of not being good enough.
For decades, Jessica Covington thought she was lazy and unmotivated until she got a life-changing diagnosis.
It explained so much.
She's part of a growing trend of women being diagnosed with ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
You say brains are different for people with ADHD. What do those differences cause?
Persistent struggles with things like time management, things like planning, things like organization.
A recent study shows diagnoses for women 23 to 49 years old nearly doubled from 2020 to 2022. That rise attributed in part to a shift in understanding how ADHD affects girls and women.
Girls present with inattention. They may not be jumping up and down, but they'll be twirling their hair, clicking the pencil, and they get overlooked.
Now, as moms, many are unexpectedly getting diagnosed after learning about their children's ADHD.
I started to realize how familiar it all sounded.
Others are being tipped off by social media.
I started seeing videos about women particularly were struggling to keep their houses clean, or they start one task and then they do another.
Parenting influencer Libby Ward says those videos made her realize she might have ADHD and eventually get diagnosed. The same thing happened to me. As a best-selling author and successful news anchor, ADHD wasn't even on my radar until social media videos like Libby's led me to get evaluated by a licensed psychologist.
Is there anything in particular that feels tricky?
To my surprise, 4 minutes into the intake, I was in tears.
I think all my coping mechanisms worked really well for me until I became a mom. And now I have 2 kids and I love them dearly. I just find it really hard sometimes to manage all of that and the expectations that I put on myself.
But people with ADHD often excel in areas like creativity and problem solving, potentially making you seem lazy when you struggle elsewhere.
I would write lists and not be able to find the list, or I would make a system and I would forget the system.
When these girls grow up, they spend so much mental energy trying to compensate that they become depressed and they become anxious.
Now, 10 years later, Jessica coaches others with ADHD, while Libby shares about it with her nearly 2 million social media followers.
I have been stopped on the street countless times by women who have said, I never would have gone to my doctor if you hadn't shared your story.
I'm one of them.
It gives me goosebumps.
There's so much power in knowing what ADHD is and how it's impacting you, because then you can actually set up your life to be successful living with ADHD.
That's all our news for now. I'm Damian Smith, and you're watching CFTK-TV. Thanks for tuning in.